Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining today. If you want to just like and subscribe the video, that will also be great. I just want to say thank you all so much for your prayers for my mom. She's doing really well. She's walking, she's talking, she's moving her arms and her legs. So she's got all of her physical functions. The only issue is now is just getting her brain back together and making it work again. In which she's kind of like forgetting things like every couple of minutes or every 20 minutes or so. She'll forget what's kind of gone on and happened, and it's just a case of kind of having to remind her over and over again. But the interesting thing is she's also I had to do a show last weekend, but she remembered in the morning and she sent me a message saying, "Oh, I hope you have a lovely show." So it is there. It's getting back together, and it's been 6 weeks going into 7 weeks now of her recovery from the initial aneurysm to the recovery. But yeah, she's really doing well. So thank you all so much for your prayers. That absolutely helped 100%. And yeah, if you can still, please pray just to get her memory and things back together and the way that she thinks properly back together. That would be really beneficial. So as you can probably imagine, the theme of the month is rebirth, funnily enough. But there are multiple themes within this theme of rebirth and reconstruction and kind of renewal. So, or it's the month just gone. So what I tend to do is just highlight the different areas of healing that has kind of come up to reconstruct and rebuild. And these have been like the kind of the themes of what I've been seeing. Okay, so just a few bits of housekeeping. On the 7th of October, oh my God, I forgot the date. 7th of October on Monday, we've got Self-Care Monday. On the 10th, we've got the 1010 Gateway. And on the 31st, we've got the Samhain Gateway, which we all know as Halloween, but there's a deeper meaning to it behind it. And it feels like we need to kind of up our marks with that one today, this year. And I'm also going to be doing a in-person restructuring in Halifax at the Greetland Wellness Centre. If you are within the area, please drop me a message, and if you'd like to know more, I can accommodate you there. It's running for about an hour and a half, which would do a holographic restructuring session, a Q&A, and learn how to kind of decompress some of the psychology behind what we're kind of going through at the moment, just to kind of aid and give help to where it's needed. So yeah, it'd be lovely to kind of meet you guys in person. So yeah, and also I'm going to be in Beverley this weekend near Hull at the Health and Healing Fair at the Beverley Racecourse, I believe. You can find the information on, I think it's Health Healing Festivals or Healing Health Festivals, something like that, .com. I'll put the link in the description below so you guys can find it. And kind of without further ado, I think what we can do is just jump straight into this energy update for what's been going on, and just starting to understand how everything kind of links together behind what's been going on in this craziness of a month of September. So effectively, what I've been kind of experiencing was a big spike in energy around the start point of September, which issued a whole bunch, kind of fell through the end time of August, probably about a week, maybe a week and a half before the end of August, gradually started to spike in aggression, in warfare, in kind of oppositional polarity consciousness, where we're kind of being pushed and pulled, and we're not under attack because it's like a kind of memory thing, but it is also, there is a a cause and effect that's going on in the collective field as well, or in the world, on the world stage, that's dialing up an uneasiness. Now, every time I went to kind of review this, I was always brought back to the 9/11 timeline, or the 9/11 event that happened in 2001, I think it was, with the Twin Towers. Now, this was kind of significant because it actually, when I got into this event, this warfare event, it then always took me back to the initial war in Lyra, or the destruction of Lyra. Now, the destruction of Lyra was really savage. The gates were destroyed. Well, the whole cradle of Lyra was destroyed, actually. And other parts of our universe was also destroyed as well. So we're looking at the Andromedan Gate, a couple of planets, or a few planets. And this was the kind of seed point of invasion, or what I'm receiving anyway at the moment. I think it was that it goes behind that as well, but there's a different storyline behind that, because obviously it's got to come from somewhere. So this interception of invasion and attack went onto Lyra and the Andromedan Gateway and a few other planets, and effectively prior to that, the Divine Mother connection into the planet was targeted and knocked out. This is what I've been kind of interpreting with it, or what I've been picking up, and obviously others may get something slightly different, and there's always room for further expansion. So we just like to keep the options open, so we don't hold ourselves in rigidity to other parts of the storyline. It can't just be finalized through that. Now, this destruction of the mother line and the siphoning of the energy of the mother created quite a vast imbalance within this time matrix, this universe. And effectively, every layer of that feminine consciousness started to kind of dry up through continual persecution, continual abuse, continual attack. And through August to September, and I feel it's just going to continue and continue, we've had a dialing up of this Divine Mother reconnection and healing, which has then aided in the reconnection to the Heiros Gamos, which helps us rebuild the imbalances within the masculine and feminine polarity within our own field. And then we take that from our own field and it reprints up, because we're looking at it from all of these different dimensional perspectives. Now, as these mother-father energies start to sync up, this then works to recalibrate the family unit and how we as children saw our family unit, our physical family unit growing up. Okay, so a lot of us have gone through quite a lot of tumultuous upbringings. We've gone through kind of difficult times, and this has then triggered a mountain of this information to come up, to be reviewed, to be put to bed, because we're now getting the mother-father union bond, which is feeding the child. Now, this actually happened a few months ago, but it's amplifying again now, and being able to open and heal all of these different areas. So when we're looking at the family unit, or the wounds of the family unit, we effectively see it from our personality, and we can understand the perspective of where mom was coming from, where dad was coming from, and the cause and effect that that interaction had upon you as the child. And as we can start to process their perspectives, this aids us as children to be able to neutralize the childhood wounds by seeing how or understanding how they're feeling, understanding how they were operating at the time, taking into consideration the divine mother, divine feminine consciousness had been under attack for eons. Okay, and this is really core to our development and growth, especially since now, as we're in this rebirth cycle, we're really able to get in and reconstruct over and over again our personality, and the victim victimizer or the victim template, from childhood. Now, I'm going to jump about a little bit with this video because I've quite literally got about 7, 8 points of themes to kind of try and draw this together, and I will leave my kind of titles in the description box below, so maybe then you can kind of use it for your own awareness over the next month, through to Pluto into Aquarius. That would probably be beneficial. So this reconstruction of the victim perspective allows us to start neutralizing behavioral patterns that are running from the victim mentality, which will be coming from a place of reaction. Now, as we kind of look to the reaction behaviors, it's important, or what I found has been very, very important, to really deeply study the intricacies and the feelings that come with that reaction, because what I've actually discovered, or what I've found within the deepening of this process, is that there's an artificial generated current that runs in tandem with that reaction response victim template, that where we've got where we've had wounding as a child, and how the parent or how the people around you were operating at the time will be influenced by a negative structure that's tied into that trauma that then latches into you. Okay, so so as we're looking at the structure of this trauma, say if dad was abusive to the child and to the mom, we've got this kind of reptilian based energetic or narcissistic or whatever you want to call it, depending on the theme within that, filtering down into the child and into the mother, which is creating splits in the consciousness and fragmentation, which then allows this negative consciousness to come and sit in. Now, year by year or cycle by cycle, as this comes around and hasn't been dealt with, the same or similar situation will amplify on top of that and start to feed in the trauma and layer it upon layer it upon layering it, pushing it more and more unconscious. Now, due to that result as a child, what this does effectively is builds this amnesiac response and splits the emotional triggers away from the reason, which then creates the negative ego. So as we're looking at that as a structure, the negative ego then pulls you into the same behavioral, or one into the same behavioral patterns of reactivity, of aggression, of a kind of volatility. And what this does is it opens up a gate to have this negative structure infiltrate your field, and this will come in through the astral body. It will have an interdimensional aspect within that as well, but it comes in through the astral body. We'll talk about it this way. and affects what is called the nadial complex, which is the central nervous system blueprint. And then that then transits into the physical central nervous system. So this negative entity structure that is kind of dialing up within the negative ego. So it is you, it's also this, and then there is the artificial response that is tied into the behavioral pattern. So there's a kind of machinery aspect that also inlays within this. And what I've, through my awareness of this, I've found the reaction response of symptoms like ADHD, like a high stress, or like a very, very, very subtle low-key electrocution of the central nervous system. Okay, and this puts the body into a consistent state of stress. Now, as we're kind of studying and looking through this electrocution behavior, how does the body respond? The body's always got a choice, but it's just about kind of discerning what the information is and how easy it is to kind of unravel. And when we get to the core of the behavior and start to update it and recode it by sending it love and understanding it, this behavior gets seen on all of these levels, and your energy starts to demesh from the electrical, artificial kind of currents that come from a machinery or grid structure. Now, behind that machinery or grid structure, there is an entity format, call it reptilian, call it Anunnaki, whatever is coming to you at the time. There will be contractual obligations, there's a contractual development, and this keeps you bound in to this entity structure that's kind of feeding into your own consciousness. Okay, so, and when we're understanding that aspect of it, this is giving us access into the digressive DNA genetic template, whether it is a Ruby Sun DNA template that links into all of this machinery and also into the trauma bonds and also into the negative ego. There's a whole system of trauma, or a structure of trauma that builds into this negative ego response that is not just you, but it's playing out as you because it's interlinked within your own genetics. Okay, so long story short, there's a whole load of shit that we've got to clear up that we didn't realize. Okay, so I'm just gonna have some tea. So some of the themes I've been looking at this month are that of the Divine Mother healing and reconnection, the repairing of the family unit, the Heiros Gamos, the exploring of reptilian consciousness and the digressive DNA genetics, the galactic warfares, the victim-victimizer archetype to software, because that's a whole structure in and of itself that plays out through your own system, and then the deep processing of machinery currents, and then bridging the mother consciousness into the warfare as a force for peace. Now, that last one was really the kind of the icing of the cake for everything that's being reconstructed. This is now allowing this divine mother compassion, divine mother of nurture coming in to rebuild her feminine essence into the areas where warfare had split and separated the consciousness or the universe or the field, and allowed the kind of fragment, or didn't really allow because it was taken out, but this then aided in the fragmentation of the masculine mind, or the father mind into the patriarchal. Okay, so when we're looking at this situation, we're finding out how within Heiros Gamos the two polarities work together for their best outcome, for the best outcome for everybody and the best outcome for you, because it creates a stabilizing of parental function to reconstruct the base security levels in your field and through your history where it had been shattered. Where it had become shattered and disconnected from each other and held in a state of separation. So you've got one energy that's unable to see the feminine point of view or the feminine kind of love current to harmonize the masculines kind of temperament or strength. So when we're dealing with this kind of opposition, coming back to unification, you're then able to see how it feels like to become secure within the reaction response time through warfare. Now, if we're looking at this as the warfare that's gone through the galactic history, we're then feeling that play out within your own energy field. Okay, and like I said at the start, there are degrees and junctures that they kind of sync up and synchronize together. They sync up and synchronize together, which then which then plays out as a bigger experience within your own body. So you'll get more impact, if that makes sense. So if we're bringing back in this stability between the parents, how does that translate when we're going through the warfare, when we're going through the kind of restructuring? Well, it gives us much more of a grounded perspective and response in order to kind of understand how we've been operating under extreme stress. And I think this is the key to bridging the peace. Obviously, there is peace currents coming in from the mother as well, which has been kind of capped and taken out prior to. But now as this is kind of coming back, we're able to kind of recalibrate the way that we think, the way that we operate, and the way that we attune ourselves to our environment and how we deal and manage the environment. So that being said, with this feminine current coming back in, well, amplifying, because it's not really coming back in, it's already here. It's just coming online more strongly. This is then neutralizing a whole pile of trauma in order to kind of process the next level of issues that we've had through childhood and growing up. And ultimately, as we reflect this back into the family unit perspective, we're then able to stabilize the traumas of childhood. Okay, just gonna have a look on my notes now. I'm kind of free flowing with this today because I've got so many notes that I literally I can't go through them all by one because it just wouldn't work. Okay, so okay, so the victim victimizer archetype to software. So understanding through our childhood, when we've gone through traumas and gone through issues that have altered our personality and behavior, we need to kind of understand what the reaction response of that childhood interaction has done to us as adults, and how does this intertwine with the victim archetype. And we do that by studying the behavioral patterns and understanding what the victim was thinking in that time. So okay, so when we're seeing how the victimization has responded to us as adults, we need to understand the point of view of that victim. So when we're kind of going into this awareness, this part of you is feeling a distinct lack of being unheard and of being wounded. So if we open that perspective and start to listen to ourselves, and we do this, there's many ways to kind of do this kind of shadow work, but what I've found that works best is if we sit there and start sending in love and acceptance to the aspect. It feels as if the victim archetype will start to shed energetic information through the feelings of pain, injustice, and anger, and through the continuation of intention of love and acceptance. The more it sheds the emotion, you'll start getting the different areas and memories coming up around that then starts to release the energetic information. And ultimately, as we kind of come back to the point of view that if we come back to the point of view that you are accepted, or I accept you, and look what I've done to rebuild my environment to make you feel more comfortable, the aspect starts to come back home and reintegrate the essence through all of these different junctures of time by shedding the energetic information. Now, this would be a more of a human approach to that. Now, the next layer, if we look through the historical aspects of victimhood and where it's been victimized, there is also an artificial response that also latches in and feeds into the victim on a very deeper level. And this part of the victim archetype is harboring hatred and harboring aggression and anger. Now, important to kind of get into this, because the deeper we go into that, the more aware we become of things like kind of like demonic infiltration that is spewing venomous, intrusive thoughts of hate that is kind of congealed within the deeper layers of the victim. And as we kind of become aware of as we become aware of these layers of the self, we can start to see how it's been impacting the central nervous system, the response, the inability to harmonize peace. And then this goes in to an extremity of polarity tied into the a kind of reptilian mind or the reptilian consciousness. So when we deepen into that, we actually get much more of a clearer perspective, as we've all got a reptilian mind, a reptilian cortex. We've all got digressed aspects of the self, and it's about being able to understand these parts and seed in a different perspective, seed in a different way of life to start changing the way they interpret their world and changing the way they choose to interact with each other. So there is a whole system of extreme victimization within this reptilian mindset, because this is how they've grown up. This is how they've been treated. It's very service to self. It's very aggressive, and it's a kind of I'm doing this for myself and I don't care what's going to happen to anyone else. It doesn't, the thoughts don't even cross their mind. So it becomes instinctive. It's very survival. So as we kind of go into that layer of victimization, that extreme digressed victimization, we can start to rethink back to the God source current, back to the alignment of the law of one, and back to the awareness of oneness. And this fundamentally is what we're really trying to do within this rebirth cycle. Not just the rebirth cycle, it's actually through the ascension cycle, is to return to oneness, but it's the seeding of oneness into the most digressive aspects of the self, which will be linked into negative structures. And this then changes the critical mass, or works to change the critical mass of their group field or their race field, their bloodline, whatever you want to call it. There are correct terms that will kind of go in with it. But this provides choice and awareness as you heal yourself and you heal the most aggressive parts of yourself. This then starts to spread through that negative structure as well. Okay, so it may seem a little bit daunting, and it has been very, very, very full on the past month, but this is all to work to correct ourselves and the group field. So there is a kind of when we work in this way, there is a kind of sacrifice. Sorry, my mind's just gone completely blank then with that. Don't know if I meant to say that yet. No, it's gone. Okay, so when we kind of work in this way, what we're doing here is we are rebalancing extremity of polarity and able to access our own essence held within that network of or that realm, that shadow realm or hell realm, whatever you want to, however it's presenting to you, because there are different things for different environments, and being able to kind of resync this back up to the law of one and back into alignment with bioregenesis. And then that starts to stabilize the extremity of polarity into unification. And this is ultimately how we return to Christ, or return to the Christed state. So another one of the realms that's been really highlighted to me at the moment is the underworld, and the underwater realm. So when we're looking at the underworld, we're looking at like kind of like the hell realms. We're looking at the more extreme areas where our consciousness has been kind of locked into. So if, for example, you've been a bit of a drug addict for quite a few years, then you're going to have essence that has been kind of siphoned out and locked out of your consciousness and held within these kind of digressed realms, which is then feeding misery as a cycle back into your energy structure. So as we kind of open and understand these parts, you've got your energy held back within these places that swamps you with highly polarizing negative consciousness. And we have to find ways to kind of pull ourselves back from that. Now, again, this will kind of fall into the victim archetypal imagery, because when the consciousness digresses into a state of kind of victimization, it doesn't see the world in a through a loving lens. It sees it through a kind of miserable, frustrated lens, and then it gets kind of unlocked into the vibratory spectrum where that, I guess, where that kind of resides the most. And through the the reawakening of these parts, we're then able to kind of start to reseed back in the love into these locations and start to pull energy back. Now there will also be contracts behind that as well, that we've kind of gone in with in order to harmonize and balance the extremity of polarity within that realm. Again, coming back to providing choice within the astral field or within the on the other side to those that cannot see a way out. So this then seeds into this then. Oh, tiamo kia kratinya kora shaki. Can I have that back, please? Da kia kratinya na kora shaki kratinya matpuri sanukuratia. So what we're doing within that is we are seeding into the collective realms that really cannot see the way out, and they cannot see hope, they cannot find their faith. And it changes the perspective within that vortex or within that kind of current of energy as a template or a, well, yeah, it's kind of like a template to find their way back out of it again. And this is really interesting because this whole kind of mission work has become very, very, very potent in my awareness recently, to how we're kind of operating and what we're doing on that collective level to aid and assist others to realize that they've got choice, and that in and of itself is quite magical. So I've rattled on quite a lot now, and there's been a fair few kind of what's the word, disturbances through the video, including my phone going off and things like that. So I'm feeling like it's trying to stop me from speaking at the moment, or the negative are at least. So yeah, fundamentally we've got 8 themes that's been coming up within this, and hopefully this has kind of helped draw some dots for you as to where you are. So we've got the Divine Mother healing and reconnection, the repairing of the family unit, the Heiros Gamos, the exploring of the reptilian consciousness, and the digressive DNA template, which we are working to repair and restore, which has been installed and tied in through implants and technology and machinery that kind of lowers the vibe, locking it into the lower field. So it's like an artificial timeline overlay that's engineered. These are coming up at the moment really, really strong to be released. And this is again done through awareness and understanding your behavioral patterns and isolating out the artificial nature of energy, which is then pulling you in and out of transhumanist lower timelines. So the next thing is the galactic wars, the victim-victimizer archetype to software, deep processing of machinery currents, and the bridging of the mother consciousness into the warfare as a force of peace. Okay, so I'm going to love you and leave you there. I hope this has been really helpful, and I'm just going to run a very short meditation here. And we're just going to go ahead, inhale, exhale, and just start connecting into the blue and green emerald sapphire crystal light. Connecting to emerald order coding, recoding through the genetics, intercepting through the reptilian-based DNA, synthesizing, organic bioregenesis coding, Akasha code, Dayana Yokoria Mataporia Sanakia Karadia, unify mind, reconstruct the digressive base template, na Tiatararia na Hura Shana Mataporia Sanakia. Flipping the script and recoding out reptilian genetics, and this can take a bit of unraveling within your own energetic field as this starts to unravel itself. And when we're looking at this, we're looking at the real dense service to self polarity within our own energetic fields. So real service to self behaviors, selfishness, greed, whatever you want to call it, and going into more of the kind of aggressor behaviors. Don't be scared of looking at these things and don't be put off by it, because this is just a divergent part of the self that is trying to come back into alignment with the source current, and it only is raised up for you to see in order for you to realign. And obviously what comes with that is the emotion, and it's that emotion that we see as bad that we then go on to repress. So what this needs is acceptance. It needs love. It needs to let go of the shame of its action. And it needs forgiveness as well. And as we kind of work through to process these most aggressive parts of the self, just start feeling the love current, the peace, the acceptance, the compassion, because we have to understand the divergence in order to realign it. Because this extremity of victimization that they hold is the thing that will come off and attack others. And we come back to the point of I accept you. All of the really shitty behaviors done We come into acceptance of these parts of yourself. You are absolutely 100% safe to admit these things to yourself. You don't need to be fearful to do so. Because remember, within the parts that you are operating as, there will be extra parts that are also interlocking and interplaying with these parts of yourself. That are controlling and manipulating through the nadial complex, through the central nervous system, through machinery, that are swerving you into a subtle choice. And when you're not conscious of that, you become swayed a lot easier. However, you still do have a choice. So the atonement behind that is also really important. It's the acceptance of what has been and the realization that it's been, it's done. And I'm guessing everyone who's watching these videos now have found a way to kind of bring themselves back around and out of it, looking for stability. So therefore, you've already found a way out. It's just amplifying that way out back to oneness. And we do not reject any part of ourselves to do that. Divergent aspects realign into opalescent ray. Feeling the grief, feeling the purge from where we had once rejected ourselves and had others reject us too. Recode the experience. Inhale, exhale. Let's update through all fields, all localized grids, and seal. Nice and slow. You can stay in this place if you want to. Just relax. Sending you loads of love. I'll hope to see you at one of the events. It's a love. Bye.